The November 14th, 2022 meeting of the Camden County Board of Elections registration is called to order. All members are present with the exception of Barbara Hahn. Please rise for the opening ceremonies. Let us pray. Eternal Father, you know the needs of each person here today. May you provide comfort for those that are suffering and healing for those who are sick. I ask that you wrap your loving arms around all of us so we may feel your love and know you are with us. Amen.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Moving on to the adoption of the agenda. I do have one thing that we need to remove from the agenda. It's the approval of the minutes. There was a technical issue and we do not have the minutes from the October 20th, 2022 meeting. Are there any other amendments or corrections to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, I would like to add an item to new business. And I don't know that it will require a vote. Just a brief discussion regarding the designation of the holder of the Camden County voting materials.
So I've got the discussion concern of the Camden County voting material custodian.
Okay. It says holder up, but custodian works.
I'm going to put that in old business as it's an item we've already disposed of, so I'll make that old business number 1.
Okay, so that's the new E and new business is the new F?
Yes.
Okay.
Are there any other amendments or corrections to the agenda? Seeing none, the agenda is approved as amended. Has everyone got an agenda that wanted an agenda in the public? Public comments? We're taking comments for the items on the agenda. Anyone have any public comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Yes, go ahead. Yes, part of the,
That's why I just want to be sure.
yes.
First, I just have a question. Maybe y'all can clarify. It's, I noticed you've got absentee on here. I just have a question. If a voter requested an absentee ballot for the general election, will they automatically get an absentee ballot for the runoff?
The answer to that is no, unless they are elderly or disabled or UACAVA.
It's elderly 65 or 70?
65 or older,
Ooh,
and they have to indicate that on their original
Okay.
on their original
application,
request.
original request that they requested due for the entire election cycle. Sorry about that.
Thank you. I was being asked that question, so I was
Okay.
trying to get it clarified.
Yep.
I do have something to speak to as far as the runoff election is concerned.
Actually, if you could state your name and address.
My name is Linda Victory. I live at 238 Miller Drive in Kingsland, Georgia. And I'm here to talk about the the runoff election and early voting. For that, we just have 1 week of early voting. And I know Raffensperger sent out a thing this morning that Saturday is not an option.
Right.
The Saturday after Thanksgiving is not an option because of celebration of Robert E. Lee birthday. So that really cuts us down. So I'm hoping that this board will do a Sunday voting, because Raffensperger, he was very kind in his remarks where he did put a Tuesday or a Wednesday prior to Thanksgiving. That's going to be a little hurried to get things done for early voting, but he did include that Sunday in his remarks after Thanksgiving. So I'm hoping that you all will do that. And I'm hoping that, I know we were here, this is deja vu, 2020, we were here discussing the same thing. St. Mary's had a runoff, and we had a U.S. senatorial election. The voter in Tarboro, north end of the county, deserves as much consideration for access to early voting as does the person voting in St. Mary's. So I'm hoping and asking this board to please consider a Sunday voting, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, from 11 to 4 here at the Woodbine office. That would give the north end of the county access to early voting because, and those who work, we have many people that work in Jacksonville. They have to be there from 8. They don't get home till 6. Early voting doesn't work for them if it's 8 to 5. If we don't have a Saturday, then they're left out. So I'm asking you, please, to think of Sunday voting here at the office in Woodbine. Thank you.
Anyone else?
Kelvin Blue, 4515 Georgia 40 Highway, St. Mary's. I'd like to piggyback off of what Linda Victory just spoke about. With consideration, we have been shorted the opportunity to have a Saturday voting. In the interest of being fair in this election, and everybody knows how challenging it is to have a runoff election, a special election, and getting voters to come back and participate a second time for the same individuals. By providing this opportunity for Sunday voting, even especially here in Woodbine, it should and very likely increase the amount of voter participation. Isn't the name of this whole situation about getting to hear what the people's had to say by having an election that they can participate in? So with that being said, there is no reason I can understand if there's a logistic issue, then speak to that. But we should have a Sunday voting for this runoff election. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, we'll move on to old business. Discussion of the Camden County voting material custodian. Dr.
Thank
Bradford,
you.
the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In August, at our August meeting, the secretary, no, that's not her title, the clerk of the Superior Court, Ms. Joy Lynn Turner, presented the board with a request to designate the Camden County Election Supervisor as the official record voter of voting materials, holder of voting materials, based on section 21-2-500A. And we all voted for it, and that's not at issue. But looking at the verbiage of the code does say, and I'll just read this first little part, immediately upon completing the returns required by this article, in the case of elections other than municipal elections, the superintendent shall deliver sealed containers to the clerk of Superior Court, or if designated by the clerk of Superior Court, to the county records manager or other office or officer under the jurisdiction of a county governing authority which maintains or is responsible for records as provided in Code Section 50-18-99. So the election supervisor, I think based on the code, is clearly an officer under the jurisdiction of a county governing authority which maintains or is responsible for the records. However, it does say the superintendent shall deliver. The superintendent is the board. The board did not profess a role in this process. So without acknowledging a role, it appears that the supervisor is delivering the records to the supervisor. So I bring it up because I think on more than one occasion, there's been a blurring of the lines as to what's the role of the superintendent and what's the role of the election supervisor. So the election supervisor, clearly makes sense that the election supervisor be the holder of the records. how do the records get from the election supervisor through the superintendent back to the election supervisor? They're just a chain of custody that would seem to be necessary so that there's no question that the board as superintendent has signed off or done something. And I think maybe something as simple as an acknowledgement that we, the board, acknowledge these records and are turning them over to the supervisor, but something so it doesn't look as though we didn't do anything at all and are not in compliance with code.
So how about a memo from the election supervisor to the superintendent saying that all records and list of records have been placed in her custody and are in storage?
Well,
Because
I
we
think it
don't,
should-
we don't actually physically hold the records. The election supervisor always holds the records. We do not hold.
Well, no, the election supervisor does not always hold the records. That was the issue. The clerk of the Superior Court held the records, and it made sense that since the election supervisor has more need for the records than the clerk of Superior Court, then let's make the supervisor, the holder of the records. I think a memo is sufficient, but I don't think it should come from the supervisor. I think it should come from the superintendent to the supervisor. But supervisor, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so the process involves a very detailed list of how, like, the number of boxes that we have to send over, what shelf they get placed on. And then with that detailed list of exactly what is in each box, with that detailed list, it has to go to the clerk, our county clerk, because she maintains the records retention area. So I'm responsible for notifying her of what exactly we put up, where it is in the storage area. I was thinking at the same time, I could notify you all and let you know what got put up. I'm trying to think of like how we would do it with you. 'Cause
I think what you have to say is you have to ask some type of approval from the board, to the board. You ask that where you're going to place the records, we approve of.
We already did that when we did
Yeah,
when we allowed her to be the records custodian.
yeah. So
Code says the superintendent, the clerk of court, or to whom she designates. Clerk designated you as the person who should receive the records. I don't think we have that's not the issue. My issue is this part of delivering sealed containers, whatever form that takes. So, you have to say, this is what's in them. We sign off saying, we concur, and here, you do with them what you need to, then I think that is sufficient. But right now, the superintendent, as the board, is completely left out of the process.
right.
And that's my point.
I agree with you, but what I'm saying is that if she presents us with a report, we approve the report, and then
That's it.
that's it. I mean, we've put ourselves in the loop.
Right. We acknowledge that, yes, we understand there's material that is being held by the election supervisor, and this is the material that's being held.
is that
That work?
so much as an email or because
I think it has to be a formal
So
sign
whatever
off.
documentation you provided this to the county clerk on what you're putting in the vault should be the same documentation that we receive.
But you're not saying that I can't take them to the records retention until y'all approve it, are you?
No, I'm not saying that. Are you saying that?
I am saying that because that's what the code says, the superintendent shall deliver.
I think, I agree with you. I agree. I believe that would, if we're going to put ourselves in the loop, we really must put ourselves in the loop. I mean,
How? How will we do that?
Well, we just step back and before you, just, else you need to demo or we agree in advance. We know when this is going to happen. So we agree in advance that, yes, supervisor has permission of the board, of the superintendent to deliver these documents, blah, blah, blah. So, but I think it needs to happen on the front end as opposed to being informed that that's what you're doing. That by our saying, yes, this is what you should do, then by that, we have delivered to you as the officer of the court. So, I just think, I'm something simple, I don't want to make it there
No.
need to be something drawn out, but it just needs to be on the front end. It's one of those where it's permission rather than forgiveness kind of thing.
But it's not gonna go to the board for approval at a meeting. Like,
No.
here's my concern. Like, I don't want to get
No.
stuck with all the
No.
boxes stuck in the
No,
No,
hall
should not-
waiting for the next.
Should not go, no, it will not be during a meeting.
So how do I do that again? Send a
Well,
memo?
we know when the elections are. When would you typically do that?
As soon as we got a chance. So in this case, we'll probably end up doing general and runoff at the same time.
That's what I was thinking.
So maybe we just add this to the agenda for the
The 12th?
certify elections on the 12th. And we just add, that just becomes a normal part of certifying.
But she won't have,
elections.
she won't have the records available to transfer until after the 12th, because that's when we certify. So then we would have, if we're gonna do it at a meeting, we would have to wait until the January meeting. I don't think it needs to be done in a meeting.
No, and I don't want to disrupt the process. We just need something that gives you permission to do what you need to do to get the records where they need to be. It can be something there.
And the thing that Joylyn Turner gave us doesn't give me, it doesn't allow me to do that, like, at some point. Like, if I could bring it up to your attention at the meeting or just provide you with an email of what went over there.
I would say an email would suffice, in my
well,
opinion.
I don't know if an email is believe it or not, a legal process. And I don't know if an email is recognized as a legal document for us to take into consideration. I mean, it's, a formal notification to the board is what we're looking at, I believe. And so she can proceed.
Okay, do you want it to the whole board or just to the chair?
Well,
Or anyone? Because if it's just to the chair, then she can email it to me, I will sign it, scan it, or actually just bring it back to her.
well, somewhere along the line, we need a document to go into our files,
Yeah.
into the files, so that when an email is not a document, we need a formal sign
No,
off.
it would be a document that she generated, emailed to me, I print it out, sign it, and bring it back.
Okay, that's,
Will that be okay
that's
with you?
process.
Is that okay with everybody?
That's process.
Okay.
Now, is this something that,
Okay.
And I want to hear
is this something that has to happen at each election, or is this a blanket
Yeah,
that can
no,
be
no,
done?
Each
once a
election.
year?
Each election.
But again, since it has to be done every election, we can just set up a process to do it. And it says the superintendent shall deliver to, not the supervisor shall tell the superintendent that this is what I did, this is what I got.
I understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
you're wanting to protect us
Here-
as the supervisor.
Yes.
Here's what
Like
HB
superintendent.
1023, and I'm going to bring this up because the General Assembly is the one that built this document, that built this Board of Election and Registration. It says, the election supervisor shall direct and control the administration of elections and voter registration in Camden County. That's pretty direct.
Yeah, that's, okay. And the code says in section 21-2-2 and the definitions, superintendent means either the judge of the probate court of a county or the county board of elections, the county board of elections and registration, the joint city council board of elections, or the joint city council board of elections and registration, if a county has such. We have a county board of elections and registration. We are the superintendent.
that has designated the election supervisor. And if you look at the SEB rules, which are governed by the governing authority, it says superintendent or, if appointed, election supervisor is the superintendent.
Whoa, wait a minute now.
They are the same.
No, they're not the same.
According to the SEB rule, the definition I sent you earlier, it says it's either superintendent, superintendent of elections, or election supervisor if duly appointed by the board.
So if that is the case, then either you don't need a supervisor or you don't need a superintendent. One of them is superfluous.
Right.
Right. We as a board, we don't handle elections. What do we do in an election?
We are the superintendent.
We oversight,
Listen.
consent, and advise.
I didn't intend for this to become this long drawn out argument. The code says the superintendent shall deliver.
I understand.
Okay, we are the superintendent. The board is the superintendent, not the supervisor. The board is the superintendent.
I would direct you back to the SEB rules. that
I
talk
don't
about-
think the SCB rules trump the code.
They're written by the General Assembly. The General Assembly said, SEB, you have the authority to make up these rules.
Then I suggest, and I would ask that we reach out to the Secretary of
Okay.
State and get a ruling.
Yep.
There you go.
It'd be
I
nice if
agree.
it said.
In the meantime,
It would be nice if it added, supervising or its designated.
Well, there are roles for the supervisor and roles for the superintendent. And I don't think there was the intent that they are one and the same. So,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think your what you are asking for, the process that you're asking for is that we have a documentation that we looked and we went forward and gave it to her to go forward
yes.
with. And I don't think we have to get into the minutia of all of this. We simply want to be in the process, and we simply want we want our opinion there. If, for example, something were to happen that we suddenly have a decision to make, we have to be in the process. We can't go enter it after the fact. In other words, if, let's say there's a flood or where we're going to steal the records or, or somebody breaks into the whatever, or there's a fire. We're involved. The board is involved. So I think that's where we're going with.
Yes.
Okay.
So where are we?
so we need to figure out how we're going to, what kind of a memo. And I would ask that you work on that, Dr. Bradford, on the memo that would be presented to the election supervisor by the superintendent.
Okay, I'll do that.
Okay.
So, and you're not putting up any records before the meeting on the 12th, right? You think?
I would inform you all.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
I just get,
And we never asked, and shame on us.
I mean, the code also says that the election superintendent will deliver all voting materials to the precincts.
Say that again.
The superintendent will deliver all voting materials to the precincts, including the machines.
Where is that?
We're not involved in that.
Where is
I'll-
that?
I'll talk to you offline about it, but I'll
Okay.
go to you.
Oh, okay. Well, you can find it in the code.
Oh, yeah, I can find it in the
Okay.
code.
All right.
Trust me, I can
All
find it in
right.
the code. All right. Any other old business? Any more discussion? All right, moving on to new business. Certification of November 8th, 2022 general and special election. I'll ask a couple of questions. Elections supervisor, have all legally cast ballots to include UACAVA and provisional ballots from the November 8th general special election been counted, adjudicated, and tabulated? Upon certification, are the November 8th general special election results ready for transmission to the Secretary of State's office? All right. The chair will entertain a motion to certify the Camden County November 8th general special election results.
Motion to accept.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to accept the certification of the Camden County November 8th general and special election. Any discussion?
Yes, where are they? I just don't, do I have we seen them?
We just finalized how.
Okay.
We did 4 provisionals. Nothing else has changed. We had 4 provisionals that we added. Button. 183 absentee ballots, 4 provisional. We had over 10,000 advance voters and not quite 7,000. That was just over 50. But we were on the low end for the state of Georgia, and
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to discussion concerning runoff of the advanced in-person absentee voting locations and times. And we do have a decision sheet. It's in tab 1. I don't know if a member of the audience have this or not. Shannon, is the agenda item, is that a part of the, something that the public gets, or is that just for the members? Okay.
we proposed advance voting in Kingsland at the annex facility 1 week, beginning on the 28th. I did extend the hour, it's 8 to 5, but I extended the hours on Friday because Friday, I mean, it seems everybody waits for the last minute. So they all come on Friday. So I extended the time there until 6 o'clock on that Friday. And then I did put down 2 days in the city of St. Mary's at Three Rivers Church. That's our early voting location for St. Mary's, to allow them an opportunity, since they have a candidate, 2 candidates on the, or in a runoff. So, and also extending an hour on Friday.
All right, so is there any opportunity for a Sunday vote that you can?
Our turnout in runoffs is not very good to begin with.
Okay.
I know we want it to grow. Sundays is not the last time we had early voting on a Sunday, the turnout was fairly low. These are the days I proposed if you all would like to do something different. I think I will have outside staff back in time from Thanksgiving that could assist us. And they'll be there in place at the annex for sure, but Sunday is a little bit harder. People are just coming back from being out of town.
Hey, most people have already set their Thanksgiving plans, as far as poll workers.
Yeah, and I will say that since Thursday, the phone has been ringing off the hook with requests for applications for absentee ballots. So, or we've received them. I don't know, Deborah, how many did we get today? Almost 200?
200 plus all the rollover.
Plus there are,
There'll be time for public comments at the end.
yeah, there's over 900 that will receive them in the rollover list. And then, of course, Election Day, every polling site will be open 7 to 7.
Question, since the code allows us to extend the time to 7, could we start at 9 on Friday? Would that confuse people too much?
I think it would confuse people to go an
No.
hour later because they're already at the annex at 7:30, 7:45. So I think it would tick some people off. That's why I went on the other end, because we always have the late stragglers that are coming in, running to try to get there before the doors get closed.
And 8 to 7 is not, does that make a too long of a day? Or you think? Yeah, okay.
I understand.
And we have the perennial question. What do you do about the voters that aren't in Kingsland and St. Mary's?
Well, I can tell you that even when we had, Kingsland was open for the middle week of early voting, and Leona can attest to this. St. Mary's polls were open, Woodbine polls were open. When those people were checking in down at the annex, they were from St. Mary's, and they were done, from the north end of the county and from Woodbine.
Okay.
And I know she asked at least several of them if they knew that there were other facilities doing early voting. But some people just said they were closer to they were passing by, the annex, so that's why they went there. But, and
No,
You can't talk. She's in
Or
the
not.
office. Okay. I do think there is a sense, for whatever reason, that annex, people just prefer to vote at the annex. And I don't know, maybe this is another one of those times where we remind people yet once again, if they need transportation, call the coastal regional coach in sufficient time to schedule it.
well, I did a spot with the radio with Lighthouse, but I think it would be prudent of us to check with K-Bay to see about doing maybe a spot
okay.
there
yes.
to inform the voters who listen to that station. It'll be in the newspaper, and I'm going to try to get the digital signs now that we're just about out of hurricane season. Digital signs out on the highway to assist us to draw in more voters. So, also, somebody mentioned talking to the candidates that are up for the runoff position of Council Seat 2, not the two big candidates in the Senate race, but Mr. Ingram and Mr. Connors, and make them aware of where our early voting locations are, both in St. Mary's and in Kingsland, so that they can help us promote people to get out there and vote in different locations.
If I may say,
Yeah,
it brings up a future thought in terms of how we're doing this. We're going to St. Mary's because there's a runoff there. If the next time we have a runoff, we will have to, and we should go to the area where the runoff is, if it's in Kingsland or what have you. But I'm afraid, I really fear that what we're doing, if we do for one, we have to do for all.
Yes.
That's the law. I mean, that's in the law. We can't, we can't do anything different in favor an area
Right.
over another area. Just a comment on that.
So every time that we've tried early voting in Woodbine, it's never been the outcome's never been as great as I thought it was going to be or should have been compared to the other voting sites as far as percentage of voters and where they voted. In fact, the first time that we went and did a Woodbine voting, I compared the Woodbine and the annex, and we did I believe it was at the Welcome Center. And people that lived in Woodbine were actually going more so to the Welcome Center and the annex than they were to Woodbine. Yes, there was Saturday voting during that time also. So, but based on all of that, they still preferred the annex and the other locations. And I said, where do the resources have to go? To the places that people want to vote at. And it wasn't Woodbine. And it wasn't Woodbine this time either. We had 749 voters for the entire week. Compared to everywhere else, low. low. And when you had Woodbine voters, once again, going down to the annex and voting, when we had early voting here, it just indicates that they don't want to vote in Woodbine. So, with that said, is there any further yeah, go ahead.
I would just propose.
It is.
Thanksgiving. Wildcats in the playoffs. So,
We always have something about it.
vote this weekend, because folks are gonna be watching.
They're in Grayson,
football.
right?
But maybe word, service, if you will, engage voting electorate in the precincts on the north end of the county. Just ask, what's your preference? Because we've got limited resources. And we don't want to establish a precedent that we're favoring
Right.
St. Mary's
Agreed.
or Kingsland over the others.
And the other part of it is, what if we have runoffs in 2 and 3 places? Yeah.
So,
Well, the bottom line is you can't do for one area and not for another.
So are you saying?
If they have a runoff,
So,
when we're dealing with runoffs, if we're dealing with overall elections, then everybody's got to get a shot at it.
and that's why we brought them up to Woodbine for the general election, because we said we would do that for the general. So are you saying we omit St. Mary's?
No, at this point in time, I don't think you
Okay.
should even
Okay.
consider that. But I mean, we just have to make sure that the board looks at it in the
Yep.
future, that we don't want to create a situation for ourselves that we
Exactly.
thrown up in there.
I preface my comments by saying, moving forward.
Moving
And I think
forward.
we really do need to have a discussion, and because people will feel as though they're being slighted.
Mhm.
When you look at the demographics, then that becomes a real easy optics issue. So it's something that we need to make the voters aware that, yes, we are aware, and we're dealing with limited resources, and help us figure it
Right.
out. Because when we gave you an opportunity and folks didn't show up, and I remember we had this discussion last election, but it's not about how many people show up, it's the opportunity to
Right.
vote.
That is true.
So,
That is true.
I just suggest that, once we're past this election cycle, and there's not another one until, I guess, maybe,
Woodbine in 23.
Fines later next year
okay.
or
So before then, that we have, well, Woodbine, that one, we wouldn't have to talk to folks in Tarboro. I don't know, they don't vote for Woodbine. But, we just need to have those discussions, I think, and have it on the record. The populace to try to
Agreed.
make it appear, not make it appear, to ensure that we give it. Vote can be.
we can work on like a survey.
Mhm.
Survey or something that we can hand out to voters as they on the election. Especially those just in.
Have we had, excuse me, may I ask, have you had
Yeah, we're,
any type of complaint at the last election that people weren't happy with the locations that we chose?
I didn't get any complaints.
I-
I mean, we did have people come in the third week of early voting to Woodbine to ask, where do I go to vote? But when we told them Kingsland, I mean, we didn't really have people having a fit or.
Had some people who showed up. I can think of one in particular who showed up and said something about not having opportunities to vote early.
One, okay,
Yeah, so, yeah, one person, but again, I mean, we're
Right.
talking opportunity as opposed to.
yeah.
You can't say, well, we're not gonna do it because, enough people don't show up. But again, I think if just having the conversation, I think is important. To demonstrate that we're putting forth
okay,
to be fair.
all right.
And going back to what you were saying about increasing the number of voters, I think we've done a lot that we can do, but generally it's what the particular election draws people out. You know, I mean, that's what's going to draw them out. If they're interested in to what they're voting on.
All right, just to reiterate that the voting will be November 28th through December 1st from 8 to 5 daily at the annex. And again, December 2nd from 8 to 6 at the annex. And Three Rivers, December 1st, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. and December 2nd, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Those are the proposed dates and times. I'm looking for a motion to approve this item.
Motion to approve.
Second,
Second,
any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, moving on to important upcoming dates. Last date to accept mail-in absentee ballot applications and last date to begin advanced in-person absentee voting is November 28th. So have your absentee ballot applications in by the 28th. Runoff election is December 6th. And our monthly board meeting will be December 12th. We need to decide what time to have that. I can be here at 2, or I can be here on the 9th at 6 p.m. Any preference in time?
So the 12th is Monday, so
Uh-huh.
they have to be certified by
5 p.m. on that Monday.
Monday.
Yes, that's why I'm proposing 2. So we have plenty of time to get it certified and meet the 5 p.m. The last date to cure a provisional ballot is the 9th at close of business. So that's why I'm proposing we may have it at like 6 p.m. on the 9th. Friday.
Right.
Friday.
What works better for you?
Either one. Oh,
Not you.
it's all about me.
Or the supervisor.
Oh, dang. Let me go offline on that one. Anyway.
I mean, if the weekend, having the weekend. It's better for you. It's better.
I mean, I'm not foreseeing anything that would stop us from doing it after close. It has to be after.
Right.
Like who looks at it?
So if we did it on the 12th at 2, that would be during normal business hours for y'all.
Oh, it's due on the 5th. I mean, at 5. right?
At 5 on the 12th
Yeah, so
is due.
Provisionals are due back by then, so we could technically certify at 5 o'clock.
On the 9th.
On the 9th. But you don't have to, the
Right.
state will ask for that by, for us to complete that by Monday at 5. I mean, if we can knock it out on Friday, the 9th, that'd be great.
Is everybody okay with Friday the 9th?
Friday the 9th for a general board meeting?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Friday the 9th, that's at,
I wouldn't be able to make that, but.
at 6. Would you be able to make it 6?
Is Monday better for you, Anthony?
Yeah, Monday I could actually make the 2 p.m.
At 2
but-
p.m.?
But don't base it on that. And if it works better for everybody else, I'll just have to.
I'm flexible with either time.
Monday, I think Monday is good too.
All right, so Monday at 2 p.m.,
Monday, the
12th at 2
12th.
p.m. Uh-oh.
I hear, I hear a groan. Well,
If the 9th works better, then.
No, it's one board member versus another, so.
You could make it on the 9th. I could probably get here, but it'd be after 6, it'd be about 6:15, 6:20.
Is everybody good with 6?
We need a quorum, so,
Yeah, we definitely need a quorum.
and Barbara
And
is,
and my concern is if we wait until the 12th and we don't get a quorum, then what do we do?
yeah.
If we do it on the 9th and we don't have a quorum, we can always reschedule to the 12th.
If you could make it 6:30 on the 9th, I'll be here.
Oh, I can make it on the 9th. I'm just
All right.
trading the 12th with the 16th.
So the
Back to the
next
9th?
scheduled Board of Election and Registration meeting will be December 9th at 6:30 PM.
Thank you, sir.
Please note that in the agenda and the minutes.
6:30.
You won't be here.
All right.
Running through the door.
I know there's a lot of people who want to make comments, and we're open up for public comments on anything. Yes, election super.
Sure, a couple questions.
Yes.
Come from the public first. I have proofed all the ballots. We got ballots, we have our St. Mary's ballots that have the one runoff there. And then everybody else, of course, just has the Senate race. So we proofed those. I did that yesterday. They were, sent to the printer today. And hopefully we'll actually have the physical project, midweek to Thursday sometime. I hope that we can start LNA shortly after that, hopefully on Tuesday of next week. And go ahead and LNA our machines with the new project. So that just gives you a little rundown on where we're looking, because that is the big question when people call about requesting an absentee ballot. Well, I don't have them yet to send to anyone. I don't have the project yet, so we don't have ballots to give out yet. So they do them as quickly as they can, and hopefully we'll have hard copy ballots to start sending out by the end of the week.
So we can't start LNA until the 22nd because there's a requirement for us to put the notification in the paper 5 days prior to. The earliest we can do that is the 17th of November, which is 5 days prior to the 22nd. We're going to do a LNA on both the election day equipment and the advanced voting equipment. That'll all be done at the same time. It has to be completed 3 days prior to the start of advance. Yes. Right. So Dennis and I, because I'm going to be off the week of the 22nd, to Dennis and I are going to be buddies. We are. Did you say poor Dennis or poor Kyle?
I look forward
All right.
to it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Oh, boy. You got a
All right.
contract, Kate?
So we don't have to send out as many
Right.
machines for
Yeah.
this election as we did for the actual general election.
No, that's only
Yeah.
for general elections.
Yep, because turnout for runoffs is generally less. We'll still probably put the same number of machines at both early voting sites that we had for the general, and then close to maybe a couple less machines at various sites. Just depends on what my numbers look like. How
And
many
with the,
voters and
and with the amount of stuff that's on the ballot, it will not take that long to actually do that. No. No,
It
it'll
should be
be
on a
a sh-
short ballot.
it'll be a short ballot.
Yeah, it will be. It'll be a short
There's
ballot.
only two things on there at the most.
No, that's why I said, is it, and you said no.
That was all right. I was preemptive, no. So anything else from the election supervisor?
Yes, sir.
All right, yes, go ahead.
But, unlike before, people to register after the vote.
Mhm, mhm.
That is not possible this time.
It is possible. It is possible.
Can vote after the
Yes, so-
general.
Right.
You can vote after.
So if you registered to vote by November 7th,
Election.
no,
Allowed to
November 8th,
register
go ahead.
After general election and vote in the runoff.
Oh, yeah, you cannot do that. So if they register to vote by the 7th,
Yes.
then they can run, they can vote federal candidate only. Sorry,
And October 6th.
Right.
For local.
yes.
So, it's necessary at some point to, somebody calls, tries to register told, okay, it can be registered,
We-
just won't be able to vote. in the
Correct.
Yes,
runoff.
we did that all day today on the
Oh,
phone.
okay.
All day, and we had a walk-in, at least one that I took anyway, that wanted to register today so that he could vote
The runoff.
in the runoff. And you know what he told me? He goes, well, I'll just keep my registration in Texas.
Well,
That's exactly what he said. Yeah, military.
Oh,
Yeah,
the voting absentee.
I didn't ask.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, there, so there's no law against a person registering to vote in more than one state. Where you run into the problem is if they try to vote in more than one state. It's a felony if they try and vote in more than one state. But you could register to vote to any, as long as you meet the residency requirements and all the other stuff, but Anyway.
I hesitate to ask a stupid question, but when is the last time somebody was prosecuted for voting in, for attempting to vote in two states?
I had that and I knew it. And the caveat is it has to be the same election and the same candidates that gets them. If they vote for a different election, different candidates, they can vote in two different states. But anyway,
So
we're getting way too far.
it's worth it to, I don't know, it's probably you guys are the ones that are taking the calls, whether or not it's worth it to say something or just let it be and y'all just answer the call.
Yeah.
I think when she goes on the radio, maybe she can talk about that if she plans on it.
Get a PSA spot.
All right, anything else from the board? All right, I'm opening up the floor for public comments. And I'm going to limit public comments to 3 minutes.
Say that, Torquin.
Well, I said it now.
Linda Victory, 238 Miller Drive, Kingsland. And you know, Mr. Michaels, this is kind of strange. You and I actually agree on one point. You said we should not give one person favoritism over another person. Well, you're giving the voters in St. Mary's favoritism for having 2 days closer to them to vote than you are in Tarboro, because the people in Tarboro are voting on a runoff election too. The senatorial runoff election is statewide. It is countywide, whether they're voting in a local election or a statewide election. So the people in St. Mary's are getting 2 days that the people in Tarboro are not getting, or people in north of the thing. And I looked at the numbers, and there were, what? Hold on, I'll find it. 10,000 advance voting,
More than,
more than,
Yes.
and 7,000 person.
just,
So advance voting worked.
ma'am,
In the advanced voting works, you had more than at the, and we have 1 week of 8 to 5. It's Monday through Friday, 1 week. You've disenfranchised every working person. They can't get to Brunswick and back. They can't get to Jacksonville and back. There's no Saturday vote. It's not anybody's fault there's no Saturday. It happens to fall on a Thanksgiving. It happens to be Robert E. Lee's birthday. Who knew we celebrated Robert E. Lee's birthday? Never heard that. But we can't get a Sunday. And I know you all are not going to change your mind, but this is on video and this is on audio. And I want it made known that there were people in this audience that thought the north end of the county deserved better. Whether you had 700 people vote or whether you had 500 or 100 people vote. You have somebody there from 11 to 4, that's 5 hours. That's all it is. You only have 1 week of early voting. You normally have 2 weeks. You've saved money there. And I understand the problem about Sunday on Thanksgiving. Not everybody travels on Thanksgiving. And you've got 80-something poll workers. They go to church, they get out at noon, or they get out at 1.
Anyway, she has the floor. Ms. Victor has the floor.
So I just want it on the record. And I'm sorry that that decision was made. Thank you.
Thank you. Please state your name and address.
June Maxwell, 256 Wood Duck Drive, Woodbine. I had a question about, let's go back to the beginning of this meeting. And I would like to ask, where are the ballots held if the clerk of the Superior Court has them?
There's a records retention specifically designated for the county.
Okay, and is
Location.
that where you keep them as well?
Mhm.
Okay.
And always has been.
Just a point of curiosity,
Yeah.
I needed to find out about that. All right.
It's the same location, just different holder of the keys,
Just a
that's all.
different- mhm. Okay, I just needed to clarify. Also, I'd just like to make a comment. Knowing we've all been dealing with the concept that we'll probably have a runoff prior to the general election. It's a heck of a lot of hard work to try to get the fairness and equitability across the board and trying to get people to watch the polls and to just do a volunteer job. Takes a lot of work. And I try to second guess you guys. And I hope that in the future, with this scenario that happened, this conversation this evening, I hope that you will take into consideration to have some prior planning perhaps about what dates you're going to have the early voting, where you're going to have those areas. We all know the annex, throwing in the Three Rivers, that's kind of I didn't guess well enough to go that far. And I just sincerely hope that in the future it would take 10 minutes, 15 minutes to talk about that in executive session or however you do that, to maybe have a pre-plan, especially with a scenario like this. Thanksgiving next week? No, not everybody travels on Thanksgiving, but a heck of a lot of people do. We're trying to get people in place, and it's just difficult. From my perspective, it's a little bit more difficult. So just give you my 2 cents worth, and I appreciate all of you. You know that. Love all of you. You have done a tremendous job. And just asking you to, let's just start thinking out of the box a little bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kelvin Blue, 4515, Georgia 40, Highway 40 East, St. Mary's. With respect, what I did not hear from this board, and I want to be on record, is the more of a consideration for the voters over the workers, or an equitable border. Not everybody goes to church, and some are dedicated to the cause that volunteer. I didn't hear any consideration whatsoever being taken for a Sunday vote when we start talking about locations, and I didn't hear consideration for there will be no Saturday voting. So in lieu of the Saturday vote, there was a request made to consider Sunday, and it was completely omitted. If it's about the workers, ask for workers that are able to work on Sunday. And piggybacking on what June referenced, prior planning. The purpose of this board is to oversee the elections. Each one that's attached to this board has the same information that the audience have in advance. So planning takes into consideration what if. The contingency plan, any professional organization puts in place a contingency plan. What if? In this scenario, there's a number of what ifs. As it relates to St. Mary's, I do not believe they warrant or deserve their own individual precinct in this runoff election. If anything, the annex building is just down the street, literally. So why, if we're talking about resources, if we're talking about logistics, then it should be limited to the annex building for the entire county, not let me throw a city in. So I would formally like to request the budgets that are coming into play for each election and how the choosing of the locations come into play. Maybe the community can assist the board with the logistics so that it will be equitable for the entire county and not have the appearance of favoritism. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Rachel Baldwin, 490 South Satilla, Kingsland. I sat in on a statewide call last week. We were planning on publishing our early voting dates for our group, and I was told to hold off that the state had not confirmed those early dates. Should have been, I don't know why I was surprised. I thought that when you put out a calendar and, it's statewide elections, that early voting would have already been squared off. They brought up the thing about you can't do something after a state holiday, blah, 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 whatever all that was. But I do think there was confusion from the top, and I think it puts the burden on the local boards to try to address that. I'm just bringing that up because honestly, I didn't know at that point what was fact and what was fiction. I do have a concern based on the feedback that we got both from poll watchers and voters, and that was the number of people at the polls that had cell phones. And it's my understanding that the poll manager and the assistant poll manager have access to cell phones. We have been very, very strict with our poll watchers, making them understand that they cannot pull those cell phones out at the polling location. If that's necessary, they need to step outside away from the main entrance for that use. But I do think that's something that we need to work on at all levels, and that people are aware that it's just that poll manager and that assistant manager that have access to that. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Chairman, I just have two things that I failed to mention earlier. I wanted to invite everyone out to the audit. We have a mandatory statewide audit on the Secretary of State's race that was selected on Friday by Secretary Raffensperger. Our audit, as posted on our website, begins Thursday at 9 a.m. And it'll go until 5. I'm hoping that we're done in that 9 to 5 period. If not, we would start again on Friday at 9 a.m. And I believe we have to be done by Friday for certain. But I want to invite the public to that. Anybody can come to the audit for that particular race. And then I would be remiss if I didn't thank all my staff who are sitting in here today for a tremendous job with this November 8th election. We've worked.
Yes, thank you.
They deserve a big round of applause. We really worked our butts off. I think we had a very successful election. Dennis was a huge addition to our team with our election equipment. I think we were a lot more calm. It was still a little crazy and hairy, but I think we did a great job, and I wanted to congratulate my staff because we wouldn't be able to do that if it wasn't a team effort. So, and board members were helpful as well, very much so with early processing and coming in on election day to assist that evening with ballots and just being there for moral support. So thank you.
Where is the audit going to take place?
It'll take place place on this floor, but in the commission chamber, well.
That's what-
the
that's-
Courthouse,
historic.
Okay.
the historic courthouse.
Thank you.
Sorry about that. I should have brought that up. Do you have a public comment? Yeah.
Maxwell again. I'm sorry. I think I'm going to have to agree here with this timing. Closing at 5 o'clock, 8 to 5. Is it possible to, I know that this is a horrible burden. I know how hard these ladies work and the gentlemen work for early voting and so forth, but is it possible to change the time to 6 o'clock? From 8 to 6? Would that give that additional margin of error to be able to, for people coming in from Jacksonville or Brunswick, whatever, to come in and vote? Would that make a difference?
I don't,
I don't know. Now, you've stayed open until 6 before, I think, no? You didn't do, okay. Just a thought. Just a thought.
Okay. Appreciate it. Anyone else? If there are no objection, this meeting will now adjourn.
Whoa, 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 whoa. You were talking public comments. I was waiting on you to,
Oh,
I would just like to say a couple things. And oh my goodness, and certainly in my federal life, I've done a whole lot of contingency planning. I do it all of the time. However, I'm not working with people for whom it is an option for them to be involved in the contingency. You know, if I need my staff to work on a devolution plan or contingency plan, they got to be there. We can't mandate that for the poll workers. But I appreciate, the comments that you all have made with regard to prior planning. We've known this election was going to happen for a long, long time. So I think it boils down to funding, and maybe what we just need to do for 2024, because we're already in the 2023 budget, is just plan on we know what the election schedule is going to be at least a year in advance. And we could just do some ask for some additional funds to allow for additional early voting across the county, but you got to be prepared to pay. You got to pay poll workers if you're going to do that. And so we're at the mercy of the commission. So people need to perhaps let their commissioners know that voting is a priority, and that the board, when the board is requesting funding, to acquiesce and provide sufficient funding to allow for additional days of voting. Because you can't do it without money. And I agree, not everybody goes to church on Sundays, but then getting people to work is the challenge. And Thanksgiving is probably, for some folks, it's a bigger holiday than Christmas, because people celebrate Thanksgiving that don't celebrate Christmas. So is that whole weekend, and we can't vote. You can't do voting until the LNA is done.
Right.
And so LNA is not going to be done. So we could have had early voting on Saturday on the 19th or the 26th. Well, you can't do it on the 19th because LNA is not done. You can't do it on the 26th because of the holiday. And so
And we are at the mercy of the state at times.
Yes.
Right.
I don't make my own project for our election. I
Right.
wait on that from the Secretary of State's office or Center for Election System.
mhm.
Plus, the dates that the Secretary of State put out, he put out on Friday and Saturday this week. So it would have been hard to pre-plan prior to Saturday. We could have had a good idea, and I think most of us did. But we are also at the mercy of the state as well. So,
Yes.
and we have to wait on people in order to get our projects into do LNA and all that before we can early vote or send out ballots.
So some things are beyond our control, but for those things that are, then again, I just think it boils down, a lot of things boil down to funding, and we just need to ask. I mean, we asked for more money this year and we got it. I think we need to ask for even more money next year and just say, I mean, this is our contingency for when there is an additional runoff. And 23 probably won't be as much of an issue, but for 24,
Right.
let's not be here in 2024 having the same discussion, because election day, yeah,
I appreciate that.
yeah, we know when election day is
I'll take-
going to be in 2024.
I'll take the hit on all of this. Thank you. It was all.
Oh, no,
There was. I should have brought it up, but.
Mr.
it was
Chairman?
coming. Yes, go ahead.
I believe it was for public comment, not for board discussion.
Oh.
No,
Ouch.
no, public comment was-
Yes.
Can't say anything.
No, it's not. It's just that we're going over,
time
what
is
we went
long.
over. And
All right.
that, I believe it's,
Okay.
as we played,
All right.
you know, I mean, we know, we've tried to justify, I don't want to go into it. We've said what we said and we've done what we've done.
Okay.
And it was time for public comment
All right.
on it.
So since there is no objection, this meeting is adjourned.